I'm here to let everybody know that there's a very dangerous drug out there called fentanyl, and it can take a loved one away from you just like that without a second thought. And like me, I've never heard of it until lost our son, and then we tried to find out all we could about it. And now we want to make other people aware of it so they don't go through what we went through losing your son. Because when you lose a child, that just breaks your heart.
I'm here to preach and educate against fentanyl murdering all these young kids, whether, whatever age they are. 1-year-old all the way up to 65, 70-year-old I'm dealing with out here. I'm done with the murder of this drug. It is a weapon of mass destruction. It is tearing the fabric of our country apart, along with ours when we lost our son, James Allen Loomis. So this is why I'm here today.
Oh, he was wonderful. He would make you laugh. He was like the jokester of the family. He would just do anything he could to make you laugh, especially his grandmother. She was his heart, and James would always pick up her cigarettes and hide them or do just little nitpicky things like that. And she would get mad at him, and she said, "You better find my cigarettes or you're in trouble." And I was like, "Oh, here we go." But he loved his grandmother, and she spoiled him rotten as much as she could. She was the type that would take him to the flea market, and they loved going with her and setting up, and they'd help her, and then they'd walk around and do things. And, you miss things like that.
James was a skinny kid growing up, ambitious, whether it was building bicycles from an early age to making me crazy during his middle school and high school ages. Really didn't have a problem with James until I moved from Welcome, North Carolina, into the city of Lexington, North Carolina. And I always told them, you are who you're associated with. Be careful who you meet and who you start to hang with.
He was bullied in school, and he didn't really care much for it. And he dropped out and just started hanging out with different people. And we never knew all of his friends. We knew a few of them. And so he wasn't home a lot when he was out running around. He stayed gone for days at a time sometimes, then he'd come back. And he wouldn't tell us all of his friends. He would tell us every once in a while a few of them, but the wrong friends, I call it, that he hung out with, he wouldn't tell us all of them. He would just give us the ones that we knew, that we've met, and things like that. So we didn't at first really know what was going on with him.
I watched James go from this outgoing, "Hey, Dad, I love you," walk in, kiss me on the forehead, saying, "I love you, Dad," to coming home one day in middle school and say, "Hey, Dad, I met a family," bleep, bleep, I won't use the names. And I said, "Well, you better tighten your belt up because you're about to go for a ride, son." And I watched James go from an honest kid to doing things that he normally wouldn't have done. But he met individuals growing up, 14, 15, 16, till the age of 27 when he was murdered by fentanyl. I don't condone anything James ever did, but he was still my son. He didn't have to die the way he died. James did 4 years in prison. I said I wasn't going to come into this and get dramatic, but I lost my best friend. But I watched my son with these drugs, this heroin, the meth, take my son
We found out a few things, and he would, we'd start missing things, like money and little things that you could sell or whatever that he could take to a pawn shop, anything he could find to take to a pawn shop to sell to get whatever he needed. That's what he would do. And so that was a big red flag for us, and he had stole money from his dad, and we didn't know what he was doing with it. We thought maybe he was going out, hang out with his friends, going to the skating ring or go to the movies or something. We didn't think it was something really bad at the time. We just thought he wanted to, be there like the head person for the group, I don't know if he thought money was getting him more friends or what. We're really not sure at the time what was going through his mind, but we didn't think it was anything serious right then. We just thought maybe he was buying cigarettes, taking his friends out to eat and stuff like that, because I guess he thought if he had money, he would have more friends. That's kind of like what we thought, at the time. We started finding out more things, and a lot of his friends would talk to his father and tell us, you think he might be smoking pot or doing stuff like that. I think he started out smoking pot and then got into the bigger stuff. And he was always skinny, but it seemed like he was getting even skinnier at the time. His clothes didn't fit him like they used to. They was real baggy on him, and he looked real pale and shaky at times. That's when we started worrying that he was on drugs, and soon found out that that's what was going on. And he would say, I'm not doing this. And his dad would talk to him and finally got it pulled out of him that he had tried different things. And we tried to bring him home, but then he would sneak out and leave. He wouldn't stay home long at a time because I guess he was going through withdrawals if he didn't have it right then, and he just had to leave, to go out and find it.
I don't think James knew what fentanyl was when it started. What I think is James learned that the high from fentanyl was there and higher than a normal hot shot of heroin.
He went through different rehabs. When my husband and I found out that he was doing drugs, we had him in so many rehabs at the time, because my husband was working as salesman for Terminex back then when James started doing the drugs, and he had went through so many rehabs that we tried, and he would either walk away or run away from them, saying they wasn't helping. He wasn't getting what he was needing. I guess he was going through the withdrawal period, and it's like when you're used to having something and you don't have it, you would break out in a cold sweat and like that, and you could tell that he was not getting something he needed, and he would just run away from these rehabs. He would, like one time he was in one state and he ended up in another one. We didn't know how in the world he got there, and so we had to get him back home, and we tried to having him at home. We thought if he was around us, around family, that we could get him to stop. And we wake up one day thinking he's here, and then we looked in his room and he was gone.
On 4/22 of 21, I was on my way home from Madison, Alabama, and I tried to call James 3 or 4 times. He didn't answer the phone. I hung it up, put it on the windshield. And about 10 minutes later, I get a call from the Randolph County Sheriff's Department. And I knew. I picked it up and I said, my son's dead, isn't he? And they confirmed that my son.
He was at a friend's house. He was staying with a friend at the time, because after he left our house, he went to live with a friend of his. And in my opinion, he trusted the wrong people. My husband had met this guy that James had as a friend, and he said, take care of my son. Don't let anything happen to him. And And James had such a big heart. He trusted anybody. He didn't have not one friend he didn't trust. He trusted all of them. And that was his downfall. He trusted the wrong people. And they give him drugs that was laced with fentanyl on purpose. And that's what killed him.
Okay, I know who, what, where, when. I know who murdered my son because the individual said he murdered my son on purpose. And I had a lot of hate in my heart. I didn't even have a heart left. I had 2 guns on me. I had a 9mm and a .45 sitting on my truck seat with me. And that detective said to me, I need you to come down here and identify your son. And I looked and I said on that phone, if I come down there, you better put his roommate in protective custody, come on and kill him. I would have killed him right there in front of that cop. No ifs, ands, or buts. He was a dead man walking. James, 2 weeks prior to this, said, Daddy, I want to go out on my own, and I want to prove to you that I can make it and do what needs to be done. I want you to take me to Archdale, North Carolina, to this guy, Ray Phillips. I'm going to say the name. You can blink it out, whatever. Ray. I said, okay. I drove James to Archdale, and it was late at night, and I got out of the car, and here this guy was, and I said to him, I don't know you, you don't know me, but if I have to come back here for any ungodly reason, all hell will break loose. 2 weeks later, I get the call, my son is dead. Laid in that bed from 1 o'clock in the morning till 7, and they knew my son was in that bed and didn't call. EMS didn't call the cops. They murdered my son. He said he murdered my son, and nothing was ever done. That's why I feel sorry for these families out here who can get no justice. The trauma is ever going to be there in their lives till the day they pass. The trauma is going to be in their heart for losing a loved one.
My husband called me from Alabama and said, James is gone. I said, what do you mean he's gone? I just couldn't get it to sink in. I asked him over and over. I said, what are you talking about? He said, Lori, James is gone. Our son is gone. And I just didn't want to think of it that way. I said, where did he go? What do you mean he's gone? Where did he go? He said, no, I don't mean it like that. He said, he's really gone. He's dead. And I was just in shock. I didn't want to believe it. I said, please tell me you're not telling the truth. Please tell me it's a lie. And it seems like it's going to be 4 years. And in April, it's going to be 4 years that he's been gone, and it seems like it was yesterday. How somebody could deliberately give our son something that they know what's in. They knew what was in it, and they give it to him to kill him. They did it on purpose. And we still don't have justice for our son. The guy's still walking the street that did this to him, and he doesn't even care. So I'm just hoping that God will intervene and get justice for us, for our son. I didn't understand why his friends didn't call 911 when they should have, because they knew they had found him there. They knew he was there, and they said they thought he was sleeping. They didn't check on him, but they were the ones that rode with him to get the drugs. So they know what was going on, but they didn't do anything to help him. And James trusted them, thinking they were his friends. But in my opinion, they were not his friends, because they laid there and let him lay there and die when they could have helped him.
But I'm over all that. I got baptized, man. I'm in a good place. Our job today with Race Against Drugs is to educate, to advocate for mental health, recovery, to help people get into B huts, detox units, 30-day, long-day recovery. And the way we can do this is honor my son, James, honor these other families to guide them in the right place. And our churches out here, our churches, my church, your church, wherever you are, Texas, Virginia here, are the front door to recovery. We are the steps to helping these kids out here to get where they need to get. I cannot grab them and say, hey, you're coming with me. It don't work that way, okay? I can try to grab them and take them to, it don't work that way. But as family members, fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, don't turn your back on your loved ones. I did it. But I just brought my son home, Michael Alexander. He's got a year recovery. But I brought him back home with me because I can wake up in the morning and see my baby right there in that bed and know he's alive, unlike his brother. We started Race Against Drugs in late 22. And we are a nonprofit out of Lexington, North Carolina. And we do a lot of events, whether it's statewide, local, billboard, where we're educating people about fentanyl. And I heard a great statement. It was by Addison McDowell, Congressman McDowell. We met with him and the DEA and several people in Salisbury. And he said, this is nothing but a weapon of mass destruction. And how correct he was. And it's coming in from China or wherever. And think about it. Think about the young community that we're losing. Hundreds and thousands that could be out here protecting our country, who could be out here educating others. But they're not. They're using this drug to destroy the fabric of the United States. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to get emotional because I'm trying not to be that way. But that's James. That was James and a ball of wax.
James was such a good kid. He didn't deserve this to happen to him. He had so many dreams that he wanted to do certain things, and now he can't do them. And I don't want to see another parent go through this. So every chance we get to bring awareness to this drug called fentanyl, that they say it's called poison. To me, when these drug dealers are deliberately giving that to all these people out here, your children, your aunts, uncles, friends, when they know it's going to kill them and they're giving it to them, they don't deserve to be walking the streets out here free with money in their pockets. They need to be in jail where they belong.
I tell kids when I go out there in the community, you got three options. One, you get well, or you recover. 2, you go to prison. Or 3, you pay the ultimate price. You die. And die you will. You keep messing with fentanyl, regardless if you know you got it or you don't.
We've got a lot of people in the rehabs before, and some of them's doing good, and then we'll have some that walks away. Some of them won't stay. Some of them will walk out. And we tell their family members, we can help you to get them in rehab and get them started on that path to, get this out of their system. We just can't make them stay. So if they walk out, that's very sad. If they walk out because they got that urge to want that drug and they get that urge to want to go back because they're shaky and nervous and they're scared. So we can't always make them stay, but we can try. That's what we're going to do. We're going to try to help as many as we can.